It's 1 o'clock on the East Coast, 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and 8 p.m. in the eastern section of Ukraine, where a Malaysian Airlines jet Flight 17 from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, traveling at 33,000 feet, suddenly was lost from radar and suddenly is in a field in the east of Ukraine, not far from the Russian border. Russians, those who support Russia taking over in that region, the rebels who have been fighting there for many weeks and months now, initially said that they attempted to shoot down a Ukrainian jet, a Ukrainian military jet, as it has in recent days. Today, the early reporting indicates, though we cannot confirm, the early reporting does indicate, it appears now, that those separatists in the east of Ukraine have shot down a passenger jet with 295 people on board, 280 passengers and 15 crew members. These are the first pictures that came into us through Sky News just about 2 hours ago, and now through the Russian state television, we're getting the first ground pictures. And before we put these up on the screen, you need to know that these pictures, as you might imagine, are very, very graphic. We've been led to believe from reporters on scene that there are bodies scattered for miles around this area. And now the victims are showing up on video, and this is being broadcast around the world. The question now is, what happens next? We know that we have military assets in the region. We know that we have extremely intensive surveillance that has been happening in this region for weeks and months now. We know that satellites have been trained here, that we have human intelligence on the ground. When I say we, I'm speaking of the United States. And because of all of this, there are people in places of importance right now who most likely know exactly what happened. They know if it was shot down, when it was shot down, where it was shot, where it landed, and exactly where whatever shot it down came from. So that information is already known to those who've been monitoring this region so closely for so long. The question is, when will we get that information? Let's turn to Wendell Goler, who's live for us at the White House this afternoon. Wendell, do we expect to hear from the White House soon about this discrepancy in what was said on the phone between Vladimir Putin and President Obama? And further, what happens next?
Well, I expect that will be cleared up at a State Department briefing, and the president may, in fact, clear it up himself. He is in Delaware now for a speech on infrastructure, but the magnitude of this tragedy will probably compel him to comment on it. We know the president was briefed by his national security team. He informed them to keep him updated throughout the day and to stay in contact with Ukrainian officials about this. The president did speak with Vladimir Putin right about the time the plane was going down. We're not sure though. Russian news agencies say that Putin himself informed the president that the plane was down in Ukrainian territory. Remember, this comes just the day after the U.S. intensified sanctions targeting the Russian energy and defense sectors, weapons manufacturers saying that they had officials saying privately that the Russians had in fact escalated their support for pro-Russian separatists instead of ramping it down as the president and Western nations had demanded. Once again, the president spoke to Putin today, but we're not sure whether Putin's claim that he informed the president that the plane was down is correct. Shepard?
Wendell Goler live at the White House. Wendell, thank you. I've gotten some new information in. A spokesman for these pro-Russian separatists now says in the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine tells Russia's television news that they are not capable of bringing down a plane at cruising altitude. He says that their weapons can only hit planes at 13,000 feet. Further, analysis from Jonathan Beale at the BBC News says a defense expert has told the BBC that shooting down a plane at what is 10,000 meters or 32,000 feet would have required a long-range surface-to-air missile, most likely guided by radar, which suggests it is unlikely that it could have been downed by a portable defense missile, or manpad as they call it, which has a much shorter range. The only other possibility is for an aircraft at that height to be downed by a fighter carrying air-to-air missiles. The United States will have access to satellite imagery that should be able to identify ultraviolet plumes if a long-range surface-to-air missile was fired. So, in short, what we have now is discrepancies on what may even have been possible here. I can tell you what we know. What we know is Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 en route from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur has crashed in the east of Ukraine in the Donetsk region, where the separatists are battling to take over that part of the country. What we do not know is how it got from the air to the ground.